I'm Ken. I'm one of the community organizers, and I'm doing the moderation, which basically means that I hold the microphone and I try to make it so that the video can hear the questions. We're going to start with 3 to 4 minutes from each of the panel to tell us who they are, what their job is, and what they're bringing to the table in terms of opportunities and challenges in the next year or so. And we'll start here with Becky. Or we'll start with Jay.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
So I sat in the middle.
All right. So, hi everybody. Jay Anderson. I am the city's open data and citizen engagement administrator. And that means that I get the privilege of managing a bunch of tools that the city provides to its citizens to try to have a better impact and influence on the way that their city government makes decisions in their name. So basically, all of you have a stake in the decisions that are made in city government, but it's not always the most enjoyable thing to do. Whether it's watching city council or attending meetings, we speak a language that is acquired. And so what we're trying to do through the open data and citizen engagement programs is provide you ways to leverage technology to have the best influence and impact in the decisions in your city government. The two sort of initiatives that I'm pushing, citizen engagement involves a discussion and survey platform that the city has called Speak Up Colorado Springs. We also have a text-based interaction that we try to use to gather a broader swath of people, so that like at events and stuff, you'll see us say, text hello to this number to get started, and we'll gather a little bit of feedback there. But we've also got some other tools like, our social media accounts or our open data portal. So kind of jumping into the open data side of things, this is a concept that city data is an asset and should be provided to citizens in machine-readable ways, available for bulk download, free of license, free of cost to you. You, the citizens, have already paid for us to produce this asset, this useful tool. And so what I want to show you real quick is one of the tools that we just kind of start with. It's called Open Data, or Open Budget COS. So it's got, it's a way for you to follow the spending and revenue of your city government. So if you go to coloradosprings.gov/openbook, it'll take you to a place where you can launch this app where you can see, this is 2017 data. This is an automated publication from the city's financial records. So you can see, it's updated on the 10th of every month. So what we've got right now is through December 2017. You can see, here's what we expected for revenue, and here's how we performed against that. Here's what we were expecting for our expenses, and here's how we spent against that. Some accounts or funds will be under or overspent throughout the year, and you can track that. You can also download that data. So if you are an entrepreneur or a startup who wants to leverage public data, this is a way for us to start with finance, but we're actually going to be expanding this program to a larger open data program rather than just open financial data. And we'll take that data and allow citizens to write apps or solve community problems based on this public data. And there's lots and lots of examples of businesses being built on public data. I think we've all heard of a little something called Google Maps. That's built entirely on public data. Even just last year, the Mountain Metropolitan Transit started publishing data into Google Maps, so you can see live up to the 15-second on how the buses are performing around the city. So if you're trying to catch one of the buses, you can load up Google Maps and it'll tell you how to get from where you are to where you're going, and how the bus is doing. This bus is 5 minutes late, or this bus is running on time. So a lot of those different interactions, especially leveraging data, sort of fall under what I'm trying to do as far as the citizen engagement and open data efforts at the city. So thanks a lot, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chelsea.
Yeah. I'm Chelsea Gaylord. I'm the Economic Development Project Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. offerings. And so my role is really meeting with businesses, doing some needs assessments, and if they're able to qualify for incentives, creating economic development agreements and doing impact analyses with those. My key areas are focused on innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as the southeast side of Colorado Springs. So how are we able to invest or drive capital investments to certain areas in order to help spur economic development in different areas of our community. And so a lot of my work is really either meeting with businesses, kind of seeing what the ecosystem we have currently is here. I started with the city 2 months ago, so it's really been, so be nice. So really what I've been doing is having a lot of one-on-one meetings, getting a sense of what are the assets that we have here in the community and what are our challenges. And so I know a few of you in the room have actually sat down with me as well to talk about what the entrepreneurial ecosystem looks like. And so, and from the city standpoint, we really work with our partners. That's whether that's the Chamber, the SBDC, the BBB, nonprofits, small businesses, startups, all across the board. We definitely don't work in a vacuum. And so we're trying to see where we can really put a little bit of our weight and really assist in building the ecosystem. So I'm on the board of Peak Startup, the Pikes Peak Market. I help with mentorship. So even just me as a single resource, how can we help grow? And so from the city side in economic development, we really look at job creation. And that is really across the board how we're doing that, whether that's nonprofit or small business. And how are we promoting skill development and talent retention here in the city? And all age levels too, not just young professionals who are coming out of our colleges, but how are we also engaging our veterans? And while we're looking specifically in industries like cybersecurity, how we can support sport and tourism, we are also really looking at how do we support all of our industries and all of our businesses. And continue to grow that. And so some of our challenges that we've really seen from our side in the conversations that I've been having look at the different incentives that we do offer. So many bigger businesses are able to tap into these because they do require certain levels of capital investment. And so those are harder for smaller businesses, at least to get an incentive from the city. So are there opportunities for smaller businesses down the road and exploring what that might look like, as well as potential different kinds of funding streams and sustainable funding for economic development infrastructure. So all things I'm kind of wrapping my hands around right now. But we also do really enjoy going into the community and seeing businesses. We actually have a business owner with us today from Relias Medical who we're working with on an economic development agreement so he can expand his business as well to bring on more manufacturing equipment, bring on more jobs. So we really enjoy meeting our business owners as well.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Becky Fuller, and I am the Director of Business Development for Preferred Lending Partners. We're a nonprofit. We're a certified development company, and what we do is we partner with banks, and together we help small businesses highly leverage into owner-occupied real estate. So I think the purpose of me being here is to kind of talk about finance. So I've seen all realms of it. So right now I really just do commercial real estate, but I've done a lot of SBA lending. I'm very passionate about entrepreneurs, so all of you that are out there really risking it every day, I do have a great appreciation of how hard it is and all the things you have to jump through, and employees not really understanding that their big risk is that their paycheck doesn't cash on Friday, but yours is that your house and everything you own is on the line. So it's hard, yeah, and so kind of what SBA lending does is, I brought you guys some presents. I have a How Banks Make Credit Decisions article, just so that I want to remove the mystery for how things are decided, because there really is no secret about it. But bankers, I'm a reformed banker, we're not really that awesome at telling you why. So people can go and apply for a loan and get declined, and if you don't understand why, you really can't grow from that, because you want to make sure that you lost on merit, not on a misunderstanding. So there's lots of different things that fall under SBA lending. So there's 504, which is what I do, and that's that partnered real estate financing. And then there's 7A, and 7A is like that more flexible one, and microloans and all that falls under there. Like Chelsea, so we're an economic development agency. We're about job creation, manufacturers on the hit list of things that the SBA likes, green companies, LEED certified buildings. There's a real push this year to get more into rural communities, which are significantly underserved. And I would say, based on what I see go on and support in Denver, we would probably be considered rural, because I think we deserve better. So I'm making a big push to get some of these other micro lenders to get more entrenched in our community, because our community deserves to have these services, and we're not that far. So with that, I think I'll just open it up for things.
What I need you to do is raise your hand. Got one already. Do you want to direct it to?
I do, to Chelsea. So Chelsea, 2 months in, what do you see a year from now that you want to accomplish? You and I have met, we've talked about
Right.
some things, but what do you see a year from now for Colorado Springs with your impact on what you want to do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And having conversations with you, Bob, have really been helpful in kind of directing some of that. And this is all ideas that are still in fruition, and certain conversations need to be had. But are there opportunities for financial programs or capital access for small businesses? The Chamber just recently finished their Garner report looking at the challenges and assets that Colorado Springs has as a business community. And one of their recommendations was something like a deal closing fund. So many different communities compete for businesses coming from the outside, that having maybe an additional incentive can bring businesses in, but we also want to look at the businesses that are already here too. And so also looking at, particularly in the southeast side of our community, and having those conversations about, is there a particular area where we can use as a catalyst area, working with the URA, the Urban Renewal Authority, working with different stakeholders in the area to help facilitate, maybe it's a community hub where there is a job creation, job resource area within that, along with other services. And seeing, also working on potentially smaller improvement programs, something like maybe a business facade improvement program where small businesses are able to apply for a bit of funding in order to clean up just the front area of a business and work on the outside areas. So really when you create a community that looks nice and you really invest into it, that can have trickle-down effects for other things too. And so these smaller pieces of bigger steps that we're hoping to work towards. So just a few ideas that are rolling around.
Okay, next.
This would be for all three of you. What do you think the biggest challenge that Colorado Springs has as a city for entrepreneurs and small businesses to develop here? And what would be your insights on how to overcome those challenges?
Wow. Sure, I'll go.
Go first. Not a softball.
One of the most heartbreaking things that I've seen around here is seeing people really hustle and grind and grow and show that spark, and then have to move. It's soul crushing. It feels like sometimes it feels like sticking around is like a noble tilting at windmills type of thing. Like, I'm going to stick around and make it work here. But it's a momentum thing. It feels like the more people grow here and start here and then leave, the more that becomes an established path. And it's a sad thing to see. So as far as like the biggest challenges around here, I think I don't know if that's there's an opportunity, there's greater opportunity in areas of more density. And, I get that. But I think there's also a bit of a confidence gap that like our community sees itself as sort of a second tier, and that's hard to stomach because there are great things happening here, and it's like almost every presenter who comes up and says, how can we support you as a community? And they say, shop local. I mean, like. It's simple, but it's world changing to turn your focus into Colorado Springs. So,
So just looking at startups are a very specific kind of small business, but looking at the startup rate across the country from 1977 to even now, there's been a decline in the number of startups that have been being built. And so the U.S. is currently missing about 100,000 new startups every year. And so just across the country, we have an issue of not having that innovation and entrepreneurial spirit that impacts jobs, that impacts the economy and our productivity. And our entrepreneurs are a key force in our economy. And so even the Colorado Springs startup density is pretty small. And so just density in general, we might not always have the resources or what I've had someone tell me is I know a guy list of we are a smaller community where a lot of you probably know almost everybody in this room, which is really amazing. But sometimes for a small business or a startup, you don't know someone to go to for a particular need or resource. And so having a list like that of and several people who fall under a particular title, having just those human resources can be really challenging for our community. But I was living here in 2015 for a couple of months, and then I was in East Africa working in economic development and community health, and came back in 2017. And just the 2 years that I was gone, there's an immense amount of growth and energy that happened in that amount of time. And I know when you've got your nose to the grindstone and you're really trying to build, you don't see that. But having been gone for a little bit, I come back and we have the Colorado Institute for Social Impact. We've got all these different partnerships. We have new companies who are building and who are exiting. So the energy's there, the momentum's there. We just got to keep carrying it forward.
I'd echo what you guys say. I think that what I see for small business, there is that fear of getting in the game. And I think some of the change as far as like having fewer startups is there's an incredible amount of regulation that impacts businesses. And people with great ideas saving the world don't realize that when they add one more form, that's a form that you fill out as a business owner and you make no money on it. So it's that little piece, and I spend a reasonable amount of time looking at some of that legislation. So I sit on the Chamber's Government Affairs Council, which looks at every piece of legislation that goes through the State House during the regular session. I sit on that for two reasons. One is it's interesting and it's painful to watch how the sausage is made, but it's really important because you guys are out running your business and you don't realize that there are things going on behind the scenes that are going to impact you long term, that can cost you money, can potentially put you out of business. And there's lobbyists and people with time and money that are pushing agendas that benefit them that don't benefit everyone else. So I think that's where I see it when we look at infill within Colorado Springs. It seems like it's pretty hard to infill. There's the process with all the public input, and I'm not saying the public isn't important, but there's a lot of things that get smashed down that really should get done. And so I think when we look at that, it's important. a few years ago, my family took this big epic road trip through the Midwest, and we stopped in all these big cities. And when I came home, I thought a lot about it, like Minneapolis and Chicago. Like all these places really kind of had like a hip area. And then I thought back to Colorado Springs, and it's like, well, where do all the hip people live? And I'm getting older, so and I was never hip. And now I have kids and drive a minivan, so that's over. But what's really encouraging to me is to see cranes in the sky. I'm meeting with more entrepreneurs that are doing some really interesting stuff downtown. And the kind of financing that I do it's outside the box, and so it's a great opportunity, and to see that passion in what you're doing, and business owners in general, what they do, how much money they can make, which ones make it, which ones don't. It's really it's almost like not working. I have the best job. It's really terrific. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Brian.
This guy right here. Come on up.
He was very enthusiastic.
You got a question for one of them?
Yeah, I've got short arms. So 2 comments and then a question. So the first comment for Chelsea is I'm kind of shocked to hear that data because we just have so many entrepreneurial opportunities here. Peak Startup Weekend, 1 million cups. So that surprises me. The second comment for Becky is we have a shortage of warehouse industrial space. I know that because I'm looking for some, and I can't find it. All of the weed shops gobbled it up.
Yep, it's
So
true.
economic development, we need some good warehouse space. Okay, so finally, my question. So Jay, so first of all, I'm super excited to just to hear that the government has such transparency. Most of us, and like even me now, running through all the hoops, I've got kind of a bad taste in my mouth for city government because there's so many hoops I've got to jump through, right? So many gates. So super excited about that. So now, what's your vision for this data? Like, what have you seen other places use it for? Like, what would you love to
Softball.
see how we use it?
Yeah, thank you for teeing me up on this. So I've been working myself into a position where I could take this responsibility for a couple of years. Chelsea's been at the city government for 2 months. I've been here since 2010. I've been in budget, I've been in IT, I've been in innovation sustainability, I've been in a bunch of different, I've seen a lot in the city. And I've been trying to get to the position where we could launch an open data program. I've been watching other communities, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, even Denver, and even communities that are smaller than us. I've been watching them sort of fits and starts of their own open data programs, and I've been going to school on those for the last 4 or 5 years. So now the mayor's allowing me to do what I've been angling myself to be able to do for a couple of years. And for those, I guess maybe half to a third of this group has probably heard of the Go Code Colorado Challenge, where it's a challenge based on the state's open data platform, where you take the Secretary of State has certain responsibilities, and they collect certain data as a part of that, business licensing, that kind of thing. And they've challenged the state for the last 4 years to they develop teams and build apps or businesses based on that open data. The county does certain things, and they have certain data that's associated with what they do. The city, we do certain things, and we have different responsibilities, but we have our parks and trails, our infrastructure, finance is just the first step, but moving to a larger open data program allows us, you think about the responsibilities that the city has, whether that's police and fire, or building inspections, sales tax receipts, all that data, if it's not personally identifiable and sensitive, I'm looking for ways to publish it. I'm hiring somebody to help me do that. It closes tomorrow. If anybody wants to check the city's jobs portal, coloradosprings.gov/jobs, there's an open data analyst who I'm hiring an extra person to try to help me
Work with Jay.
liberate these data sets from inside the city so that the community can actually build businesses, build apps, solve community problems together based on this open data, based on this data that the city has. So the long-term view, I would like to run some kind of apps challenge based on the city's data, sort of a broad thing to get people an appetite for it, to develop maybe a civic hacking community here. You see in different communities, there can be what we call brigades of people who are civically minded and who have different skill sets, whether that's front-end design or data analysis and visualization, or app building, or back-end development. All those skill sets are necessary to solve the problems that we face as a community, and more. I mean, social research, marketing, all of these skill sets can help us solve the problems that we face as a community. So whether you're thinking about the problems of economic development and opportunity, or if you're thinking about homelessness, or if you're thinking about emergency response, all of those things the city government does with your investment. You invest in us by paying taxes. And the performance that we do, what we've always done is not going to solve the problems that we face today, right? We need new methods, new means of collaborating and of addressing problems, and that's what gets me up out of bed every morning, is the chance to put programs in place like this that allow new resources for the community, so that we can solve the problems of tomorrow with new techniques, because what we've always done isn't working. I've been to public meetings where there's four people who have the time to attend public meetings, and decisions get made in those meetings. So it's an inspiring thing for me to think that we can offer digital means of communication to try to get a broader section of the community engaged about issues, or to offer data as an asset to the community where we can all start hacking on the problems that face us all. So that's kind of where I want to take the open data program specifically, is to develop that sort of cadre or group of people in the community who we can say, we've got a problem and we've got some data, and let's work together to solve it. Yeah, thanks.
Chelsea and Becky, do you feel the need to respond to the comments?
Comments? Sure. So for the density piece, the statistics for Colorado Springs specifically, that had come from Peak Startup. Actually, the numbers they are able to, based on the resources and the analytics that they have, they were able to look at the number of startups and then divide that by the number of other businesses in the community. And so that a number that is about less than 4 per startup rate per year comes from the data that they have. But we do have a lot of really great resources in the community, which is amazing, because those serve as launching points, as opportunities to connect with those I know a guy kinds of opportunities of, I can send you over to the SBDC, I can send you to the BBB, I can send you to Peak Startup, whatever makes the most sense for your business. In terms of kind of an inventory, whether it's of infill or manufacturing businesses, I've heard that from a few people as well. Maybe we have data on it as well. And I haven't come across an inventory yet, and so that's something that I've been thinking about, is what does that look like, and how can we create some kind of inventory for businesses who are here to it and who are looking, because we do have even infill opportunities in the city that can be capitalized on.
Okay, you good?
And SBA financing can be a great way for, like, if you wanted to build your own building, we can definitely help you with that and leverage you in. So you can go in for as little as 10% down.
Can you sell that many skier peas?
My name's Eric Knudsen. I'm the CFO and in charge of HR for Relias Medical. Relias Medical makes medical components for companies like Johnson & Johnson, Zimmer Biomet. So we manufacture for big, large OEMs throughout the world, frankly. I have an answer, a comment, and a question. Wow. Answer, the cool people are Relias Medical. Comment, Chelsea has helped us out tremendously. She just came in her 2 months and visited our site. A year and a half ago, I presented here And since that time, the journey's been tremendous. I encourage all of you to outreach to your community. Pikes Peak Community College, Pikes Peak Workforce Center, Mount Carmel, all have been tremendous partners with us. Question, what federal government or state government monies can we get that I don't know about?
We don't know what you
Glad
So
we
you're
got
looking,
that
so you're looking at
question.
me, but that's not really my area. Yeah, that's, sorry. I mean, what federal or state money can you get?
New money, because we know about the last money. So we watched
Yeah.
the legislation, for example, the medical device component tax was waived yesterday, thank goodness.
Oh,
But
that's great.
we really encourage our community to say, hey, there's money out there, let's get it together. Because this is money that I can use to hire more people. And that's what you want me to do.
Are you talking about loan money or grant
I'm
money?
talking about grant money, I'm talking about tax credits, tell me. And I'm saying this with all enthusiasm and encouragement. When I first came here, I found the money went to the constituents, and we partnered really well. The next step up is how can we do this collectively? I got to run a business, I'm looking constantly, but I really encourage our community to help us find those resources.
Yeah, like, to be honest with you, there really isn't legitimate grant money available to for-profit businesses. I've been in lending more than 20 years. I've never seen it. There's the 3 Fs, the Friends, Family, and Fools source of funding that is probably the best cheap money you can get. But I just don't really think there's a legitimate source there. When it comes to tax credits, I think Chelsea could speak more to that. And I do think that there is some nuanced information about that, where it's like, how do you qualify? Sometimes, like with the lending I do, it's technical, it's rules based. So if you call it X, it's eligible, but if you call it Y, it's not. So we call it X, even though it's Y. So I think that some of that is like, you might be close, but how do we help you fit in that box?
So Eric, we've talked a lot, and
This little play on words.
right, you've met with the city, the county, and have even looked at the state level first. So for the group, as a general background, so there are different kinds of incentive opportunities at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, and even the national level. So for the county, you can look at the enterprise zones. If there are opportunities in the airport area. There's the CAS. For the city, we have incentives that really draw off of sales and use taxes. And so the 3 kind of key areas that we have incentives for are primary employers, manufacturers, and hospitality. There are some minimum requirements that need to be met in order to get those incentives. Depending on the length of the agreement, the shortest agreement is 4 years. We want to see 10 new jobs created, preferably by the first year, so that you can take advantage of those incentives. You do have to be a primary employer, and then also at least a $1 million capital investment. So when I say that it's not always attainable for smaller businesses, because not all small businesses can put in $1 million into whatever they're buying. So there's kind of a gap in between that. But we do offer incentives for businesses that you can take advantage of if you're able to meet those requirements, and we're always happy to sit down and talk with you. Eric was really great, very proactive in looking for all kinds of opportunities, and we were able to sit down, city, county, and chamber all together and talk about what that looks like. So the city is very business friendly too, and we want to have those conversations.
One thing, if I could just jump on with that. Sorry. We did work with the EDC recently to take some city data, like the shape of the CAS and the Downtown Development Authority and other incentive areas, and provide that data into an app on the EDC's website, where you can now search through different layers. You put a pin in a spot and you can see, well, you're under this incentive zone and that incentive zone, and that's the kind of thing that's enabled by sharing data, sharing city data. So
I didn't even know we had that. That's awesome.
I'll pull it up.
I'm excited by that.
In your introduction, you mentioned that some of the gap or challenges, I don't even remember your name, it's obviously not millennial. You mentioned that some of the gap that's created is in the communication, that you guys somewhat speak a language in which is kind of discourages small business from engaging and from the legislative point of view and trying to determine where we connect and how our businesses and startups can possibly get some advantage through your organization. Through your organization. So, how are you going to help with that city talk, if you will? I don't know how else to explain it. That will make it more understandable to the common business owner and what we're trying to do and how that works and connects with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. What a great question. So, the city has a tool where we facilitate our city council discussions, the agendas, all that legislative side of things. So if you think of city government, you've got the mayor who's the head of the executive branch, and then you've got the city council who leads up the legislative side. And that legislation is impossible to keep up with. And so we have the same tool that facilitates us running the agenda and streaming the video, also allows you to log in and create an account for yourself so that we can track you. No, I'm just kidding. But you log in, you create an account for yourself, which allows you to create alerts for yourself. So if I'm interested in marijuana, for example, if I'm interested in, I'm a business owner and I'm interested in marijuana, and I'm going to, I can set an account for myself that includes the search term marijuana, and then whenever an item comes before City Council or is placed on the agenda or a vote is taken on it or whatever, I can get an email that sends me a link right to that so that I can click on it, I can follow, I can watch the discussion that happened, or I can see the agenda item specifically. So I don't have to sit through all the planning cases and all the resolutions and recognitions of whatever. You don't have to worry about that. But you can stay up to date with what's going on at City Council, which absolutely affects you. Because that's, if they change you can be this close to a school, or you have to be that far away from a school, or whatever it is, those things are decided by our legislative body. So that's our City Council. But you can set those alerts for yourself. You can set alerts based on any search term, including your City Council representative's name. So if you want to know what a certain City Council representative is doing, you set an alert for yourself, and then you get emails every time they take action, they sponsor a bit of legislation or whatever. That's a way to try to cut through some of that the language barrier that keeps you from understanding or from engaging. So you can get those alerts and you can come show up. You can talk on any item. You can make sure that they are hearing your voice. So I mean that's the primary tool that I would say helps us bridge that gap.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, sir.
Do you have? I'm all in favor of policy, but we may be interested in business.
Yeah.
Do you have a way to track that for RFPs when the city wants cleaning services or window washing services or newsletters or something like that, so businesses who want to be able to bid on, because you are a large employer as well.
Yeah. So as far as staying up to date on RFPs and RFQs and RFIs and whenever the city is trying to get work done and we're trying to contract with a company to get that work done, the city's procurement office does have a section of the website, and they put their RFPs on there, but then they also have it's like a membership section or something where you can sign up to create an account, and that's obviously, we're not a development shop. We don't create the software ourselves. We buy that, so that's from a vendor, and I think it's called Rocky Mountain BidNet, I think, yeah. And that, I believe, is where you can create an account, and I think it works a lot the same, where you can follow certain types of RFPs or get notifications there. I think that's how that works. It's not as tied into what I do.
latest data on the number of small businesses in El Paso County?
The latest data on the number of small businesses? That I would actually want to go online and look up. I don't have that off the top of my head, but there are ways to access that. And even if you're connected with the library, if you have a library card, you can go online, and Reference USA is amazing. I've used that to look at employee numbers for different companies. So I was able to pull up in a certain area all the employees, the numbers that they have, all of these things. So you can get all kinds of data on those businesses. The number that we're sitting at, that I don't have an exact off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Isn't there an SBA? There used to be
Oh, me? Oh. Don't touch the microphone, right. I don't know, I really want to hold the microphone. I guess I'll have to wait for another time. Yeah, so my question, so Jay, you said something that struck a chord with me earlier, so try not to derail the whole conversation here, right? But so you said something along the lines of, and I would agree with you that a lot of individuals, and I don't know the data, maybe it's anecdotal, but a lot of individuals see Colorado Springs as maybe a second-tier city, right? And I've had a lot of conversations with friends my age, at least my generation, where they're frustrated. They're like, yeah, like just like you said, like I don't know, man, like I don't know where to like go hang out. I'm like, spin class maybe, I don't know, but I don't know like where that is. So my question is, one, like, what do you all think? What is it going to take in individuals to either change that mindset or actually get there to a first-tier city? What is a first-tier city, So, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Chelsea said, something has happened in the last couple of years. Like it feels like a cup has tipped over. Like something is spilling out in the community, and the energy is very different. I came here I started working for the city in 2010, and I moved here in 2012. I moved and then promptly evacuated my house for Waldo Canyon fire. That was fun. And but something happened around like 14, 15 that it feels like the energy is different. And I think that I don't know how to say what it was, because there were a lot of people doing a lot of things, and the buzz just got to a certain level where it's like popcorn, where it just starts coming out at the top. And I feel like it's happening, whatever it is, and it's not any one thing. It's a bunch of things happening. That's like the most vague, cheesy answer ever.
So I've done a lot of marketing development for companies, so like we speak marketing language, and it's really about how we tell our own story too. I've had conversations with people who've been here for a long time, with people who had been in Colorado Springs and were moving up to Denver because they thought that there were more resources in Denver than there were here. And you guys also probably know people like that. And how we talk about our community trickles down to other people as well. If we talk about a mindset of scarcity where people don't want to share their contacts or reach out to other people, that's going to be really difficult for us to kind of get over that barrier. So it really starts with each of us individually and how we talk about our community, how we really market to other people of like, we're doing cool things here. Look at all these things we're doing. This is what I'm working on. This is who I know who's working on this. And continue to build that momentum, because it really does start at our own individual level too in the stories we're telling.
I would say that I grew up in Denver. I'm a native, and I moved here in 2000. And the one thing that I still feel, so the main office for my company is in Denver, but I'm local, and I have been for a long time. But there's this real feel for, like, I had to change my business card because it had the Denver address, and the first thing people would look at, go, Denver. And my parents live in Denver. So it was, and when I first started working in the Springs, I was out of Denver, but I would come down for the day, and there was always kind of that, Denver. And it took me a long time, like when I moved here, I was like, okay, well, like I never understood it, and then I really picked it up where it's like, well, we are this second-tier city. It's like, we're big enough. I should have my own local SBA rep. I should have my own local this, local that. But I think that we're kind of a little guarded as far as letting other people in, so we're probably missing out on some resources that might be available in our community. And it can't just be out of spite. It's like, yeah, I'm mad. Like, we should have better services in all kinds of areas, but are we unintentionally making people feel not welcome?
Thank you. This is going to be the final question, except we might have the extra special final question. It might work for them.
Yes, kind of going back to the second tier, first tier city, are there any plans in place as far as attracting kind of the younger generation to Colorado Springs, as far as getting better entertainment options here? And then also kind of going back to the business side, are there any incentives on attracting larger businesses to come down to Colorado Springs rather than always moving to Denver to be in the bigger city market?
I'll go first.
Help yourself.
No problem. So let's start with talent. So our young professionals. There are some really unique and interesting programs that are being created within the schools, whether that's at the elementary preschool level, high school level, and even our universities. So the city and county are actually working on a project with the Quad right now. The Quad is working on a team of students to tackle a problem of access to services for members of our community. But really the program is trying to bridge the gap of student experience and also what the workforce needs. So creating those experiences where students get hands-on learning and also a foot into the door for certain businesses. At the individual business or entity level, I've started to kind of have conversations of what does our own hiring process look like. Having recently been through it with the city, are there ways that we can improve this to make it more friendly for people who are just coming out of school, who might not have many years of experience in building a budget or managing people underneath them, but they have great leadership experience. They've done all these other kind of community-oriented projects that also qualify them for an opportunity. In terms of incentives in drawing in other businesses or those kinds of experiences, both the Chamber and EDC, they're doing a lot of marketing externally to bring in businesses. They have somebody who is very focused on bringing companies to Colorado Springs specifically. And they work with the state in the OEdit department to work on incentive packages with them. And also our Convention and Visitors Bureau, the CVB, they're doing a lot of work to promote Colorado Springs tourism specifically, but what you also see is that a lot of people who visit Colorado Springs end up moving their businesses here too. So we have both the tourism and visitor side doing work, and as well as the Chamber and EDC, who are really who are our partners and are doing that footwork to bring in companies as well.
I'll ask the super special final question. What can we as a community, how can we as a community help you to help us?
Help us. That's a whole new level of special.
Do you want to start, or should we go the same?
It doesn't matter to me. For me, I would like to see more 504 activity in Colorado Springs. A big piece of it, most of the loads I get, I partner with banks, so that's a natural referral source for me. So if you have a commercial banker that you love, that would like to have some really outstanding service when it comes to getting a loan done, I'd encourage you to let them know about me. I hope that it's over by the coffee. If you're interested or you have friends that want to understand how are credit decisions made, this gentleman talked about the C, D, and E credits and how he can get those financed. So today you might be a C credit, but really the push is like, well, how do you get to be an A credit? And I think that piece might be missing. Even though I just do 504, we're an economic development agency. I'll stick around afterwards. You guys can call me with questions because I love business. I love finance. I love figuring things out because it's kind of a big puzzle of you're trying to get here, what's the path? And there are resources and opportunities, but I don't think that we have equal amounts of knowledge. And I think sharing and growing together, and I see lots of collaboration even in the banking community where one banker can't get a project done, but they will call a bank somewhere else and talk about it. So I think that let's all learn together and grow and share information and get things done.
So first, I think one of the big parts of us being on this panel too is just to show you that the city isn't an impenetrable fortress that is like the city. You you have faces, you know people who are there, and we're willing to have conversations. Before I came on, economic development was a team of 2. Now we're a team of 3. So our bandwidth is
50% bigger,
right? Our bandwidth is limited, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to have conversations. And that doesn't mean that we are not engaged in the business community. One of my big roles is being proactive and being a face in the community and having those conversations. So if you want to talk, I'm open to do that and continue to build other people up as well. I think I continue to come to 1 million cups. I have here, I have in Iowa, I have in many communities because of the people that it draws. And I think in terms of you don't have to pay to be here, the number of people who come for a Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., sometimes you get coffee, sometimes they run out because there's so many people. I think that really speaks to the energy that is in the community too. So continue to grow that and see where you can continue to give back and bring other people up as well.
So I thought you were going to say that before you came to the city government, you trained as a civic superhero, which is a little training that I did. One of the first. Yeah. So I'm starting a couple of programs. One of them is the civic superhero training, which Colin's been in it. And we've trained a number of people as civic superheroes. So I take a little more time rather than just today where I'm like, I've got these little apps. We take a little bit more time and run through all of these ways that you can get more done in the public space as who you are. So whether it's things that'll benefit you professionally or allow you to be to take action on issues that you care about, there are a number of points of engagement that I kind of group together and call them your civic superhero powers, and I want to give you those. And so when I stand up every once in a while and say, hey, I'm doing a civic superhero training, that's what that's about. And actually I'm doing one on February 15th, I believe, at the old Colorado City Library. But I'll be pestering you guys about that. But there's a lot of engagement opportunities. In November, I put out a discussion on our Speak Up, on our discussion platform to talk about the policy that we're developing for sharing this data. So we're government, we don't do anything without policies and paperwork. But that policy is something that people in this room participated in, and you gave me feedback, and now we're drafting, we're coming up with a better draft of that policy. But that's the type of engagement that matters long term. So if you could just stay plugged into your city, we are trying, like Chelsea said, we're trying not to be this black box, this impenetrable fortress, and. Part of what, I don't know, I'm sure there are lots of sayings about democracy or what, eternal vigilance, like the price of democracy is eternal vigilance or something like that. It takes effort, but it's so worth it. And I will continue to bring those to this group. And so if you find something that you're even a little bit interested in, please just look me up. Your government is starving for your input, and I hope to be that conduit to give you those powers and to get you connected into what your government's doing on your behalf. So, thanks.